Hi, and welcome back to another episode of The Breakdown with Bethany. I'm Bethany Ron Silva, and today my guest is wellness guru, mom, influencer, Aurora Culpo. Aurora is part of the massive Culpo family. They're adorable, gorgeous, all of the things. I'm so envious as an only child of the dynamic that she and her sisters and brothers share. So it's really such a fantastic, fantastic opportunity for me to get to talk to Aurora. We're going to be talking wellness, postpartum depression, all of the things. So definitely check it out. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing so well. And this is a podcast for moms. And so I always like to kind of check in and, just say, how are you doing? Because I know you have,
Are you okay?
yeah,
No,
are you
fine.
okay? Like currently, I mean, I don't know. I know you have little ones. We're sort of like still getting in the swing of back to school and all of that, and like how like cold and flu season, looking down at that time. But tell us, just check in with us. How are things
Yeah,
going?
no, that's so funny. I just saw one of my favorite, it's like an Instagram reel, but I see it every year and it's like decorating for the season and it's her taking out her Tylenol and her Motrin and her like all of her stuff because it's so true. We've been back to school for 2 weeks and so far it's been pink eye, hand, foot, and mouth. We didn't have hand, foot, and mouth, but like this is just what everybody in the school has. There's some like weird flu, and then of course it's like everybody in the house has it. So this is where Thorne comes in for my kids because my kids are so picky, but Thorne has these like dissolvable supplements that I give my kids to just help boost their immune system and also keep their gut health, like probiotics, prebiotics, because the kids this time of year, especially, I feel like it's just there's so many birthday parties and everybody's giving just not the best food, and it's easy for the immune system to plummet. So yeah, I'm okay. We started back in school. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're both in school. So just trying to
Yeah.
stay.
I'm glad you guys are doing well. I am obviously, we're here to talk about health and wellness. And I want to jump in because this seems obviously like a great partnership for you. I think you've been working with them with Thorn for a little while, but I know you're very into health and wellness and all of that. But I wanted to jump in too, because as a mom, now we're always like, you become, my kids are 12 and 9, but like you're constantly like reading labels, like what am I putting into my body? What's coming into the house? What are, my kids ingesting, and so we're become like hyper aware of that. And supplements, get recommended left and right. But can you tell us a little bit about why Thorne is different and why you trust them for you and for your children?
Yeah, I mean, I think Thorne is kind of the gold standard just for the testing that they have to go through, and it's like their protocols is just much more in depth than most other supplement companies. So I know that if I'm going to use if I trust them for my body, then I trust them for my kids' bodies as well. And I took them throughout my pregnancies, and I've been able to see the positive effects that they've had on my body. So I am comfortable giving it to my children. And also when I think about the fact that they like lick doorknobs, I'm like, this is probably okay.
True. That's an excellent point. And one of the things I'm really fascinated by is like all this at-home testing, right? Because like I want to do all of these tests. I want to know my real age and all of this, but I can't like schedule another thing in my day. So tell us a little bit about that.
So that was kind of interesting because it was an easy test. It was a blood test, but I had to go in for a checkup anyway. So I was like, just take the blood, and then they sent the results right over to Thorne, and basically it checked for different biological markers that could basically guess how old you were from the inside out. And then my favorite thing, which by the way, I have to say I was about, I think, 2.5 years younger than my actual age, which is 35. So that made me feel really good. Imagine if they were like, you're actually you're 50 years old biologically. No, they said I was a little younger, but I love that the recommendations that they gave were things like lifting heavy weights. Like it wasn't just like, a link to the shop to shop the supplements, because we know that there's supplements you can take to keep yourself in better shape, especially most of the supplements I take are actually for the brain. But for the body, I thought it was really interesting. They were like, you should lift more heavy weights. It actually reverses the clock. And so literally in the last 2 weeks, I've been lifting really heavy weights. And I'm not kidding. Like 3 people have said to me, are you doing something different? Like the results are fast. And I think as women, we think that heavy weights are going to make us bulk, or that like we're going to, we don't know our own strength. And I would always worry about getting injured. But anyway, so that was one of the more interesting recommendations that they gave me.
I love that. I love that because I think like I'm very interested in like supplements and I'm about to turn 40 in December, so I kind of wish I was 35, but with all of this these new things, you know, these supplements like being able to lift heavy weights to help reverse aging. And I know I've listened to your podcast before and this is a topic that you've talked about and I'm wondering like what else? Like what else besides lifting heavy
Yeah,
weights?
this is one of the topics that I've been super interested in. My podcast is called Barely Filtered, and I love to have on specialists in the longevity space just because it's kind of funny the biohacky things that people will recommend, you know, like cold plunges and putting your body into the emetic stress, which is like getting into a cold plunge and doing sauna. But now there's so much research out there about number one, getting yourself into a sauna as frequent as possible, or like a hot yoga, which I really like, but it kind of makes my melasma flare up, but there are supplements for that too. And then lifting heavy weights, not drinking alcohol, or if you are going to drink alcohol, like as just know that it's not doing anything for you. And the most annoying one of all, just drink a lot of water. I'm like, oh, does that really do anything? I think it's annoying for me because I'm like, as a mom, I don't want to drink water because I don't have time to pee every 5 minutes.
I was just gonna say that. But I am again, so like the supplements, you know, in preparation for this interview, I think Thorne sent me like a list of everything that you take. And to me, that's amazing. But like practically, like where would someone start if they were only to take like one or two, you know, your mom in your 30s, and like what are the like a few that you would recommend?
Yeah, definitely. I would say my super EPA. So I actually have it here. This is the super EPA. It's an EPA and DHA. It's omega-3 fatty acid. And this is it's for the entire body because it's anti-inflammatory, but mostly I use it for the brain. And I found this, I struggled with like postpartum depression, anxiety, perinatal depression. And honestly, I can say that I think an omega works, and they might not like that I say that. I'm not a doctor, I'll just say this, but like I think it works better than an antidepressant, which I've been on. And there's so many studies of the really like the Nordic culture that eats a lot of high fat fish. They don't suffer from depression the way that people in more southern areas do. And when you think about like the light that they're lacking for for a lot of the year during the winter, they have to rely on that. And anyway, so I can't say enough about the omega 3 fatty acid. This is the EPA and DHA. And then also I take a methylated B vitamin, and a methylated B vitamin in conjunction with this. There's a lot of studies out right now about how it can help fight like age-related brain atrophy. We're hearing about like, you know, all of these different basically ways that the brain is deteriorating early for people, and taking a methylated B vitamin with the omega-3 fatty acid is a really good way to keep your brain sharp and to just lower overall inflammation throughout the body. You like entire body, heart and brain mostly for this super EPA.
You know,
And
okay.
yeah, yeah, that's
I was
sorry.
just gonna say we're learning more and more about like the connection between like our physical wellness and our mental wellness. And I didn't know that you had postpartum depression. And do you mind if we dive into, I wasn't prepared to talk about that, but like this is definitely like something that moms like we need to
Yeah.
hear about. And anytime a mom comes forward to like help destigmatize that, I try to like amplify it a little bit more. So would
Yeah.
you quickly just share like, I mean, obviously these supplements worked for you, but like, what was that like and how did you kind of like get to the other side of it?
Yeah, and there's another supplement here that I think helped a lot with that as well. So I it was after I had my first child, and I had this kind of like catastrophic anxiety basically right after I gave birth to him, where I was just hyper aware of like all the things that could possibly go wrong. I think moms know that just hypervigilance that can literally drive you crazy. And then you like, you know, you hear a story about something horrible that happens and you can't shake it. And it's like borderline OCD, and it's a different form of postpartum depression. I think when people think of postpartum depression, they think it means like you can't get out of bed, or you don't love your child, or you're not bonding, you're not connecting. It can look so many different ways. And mine looked more like anxiety. But, you know, on the flip side of anxiety is always depression, because you're not operating the way that you're meant to. And so I ended up getting on a medication, an SSRI for that. And it did help, but I didn't want to be on it long term, especially because I was wanting to have another baby. So in order to wean off of my SSRI, my doctor recommended to take 5-HTP, which is tryptophan. It's the precursor to serotonin. And Thorne has a 5-HTP that I really like. I just take one before bed, like every single night, because it can help maintain healthy levels of serotonin in your brain, which has a lot to do with the fluctuations from postpartum depression. And then once you have postpartum or anything, postpartum anxiety or depression, your chances of it recurring are higher. So when I became pregnant with my daughter, it came back while I was pregnant with her. And I was just like, I do not want to go on any prescription when I'm pregnant. So having alternatives in a supplement form was really helpful to me. I'm not saying that that's what everybody should do, but for me, it did work.
Yeah, I think it's important to hear all the options and all the different ways that PPD can play out, because it is wildly different from woman to woman and even pregnancy to pregnancy within the same woman, like you mentioned. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious too, like aside from the supplements, like I'm very also interested in this idea of self-care beyond like just showering, right? Like time to
Yeah.
shower. Like
Sure.
what does that look like for you? How do you make time for it?
Healthcare for me, I really need like a spiritual practice in my life, or I feel like I get very lost or like existential and like what's the meaning of everything. I could be kind of heady. So for me, like a meditation practice, or I can get really into this is on my podcast too, which is kind of, some people love it, some people hate it, but I love to learn about astrology. I love to learn about like tarot reading. I also love Christianity. Like I just love learning about all different forms of either woo-woo or religion. And one of the ways I do that is through like my astrology practice and through my meditation.
I mean, we're sweet. I love this. I'm a Sagittarius sun, Aquarius rising, Scorpio moon. So I'm like
You
I'm
get
all
it. Yeah, I'm a Sag rising, so we get it. And
we
then
get.
Pisces moon, which I think Scorpio and Pisces moon are both like the two most emo signs that you could possibly be. So we get it.
I'm so glad you shared that. I absolutely love listening to the podcast. I really just like adore your whole family. You guys have such a great dynamic. I mean, obviously you're very close. We see that all the time. And your sister and I think your sister Sophia is also a fan of Thorne supplements. Are you like having to like, are you like the wellness guru in like the Culpo family, or like how does it
We
go?
both have like it's funny, we have our own like shtick. Mine is definitely mental health. Sophie's is gut health. And then Olivia's is probably more like beauty.
Right.
For sure. She's like, Olivia will be like, will not do something, even if it's like technically healthy for you, just because she like thinks it's not good for her like skin or something, or hair. I don't know.
Got it. I'm an only child, so I think that's awesome. Whatever the dynamic is there, I'm all for it. But thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. I feel like I learned a lot, so thank you.
Thank you too. Great to talk to you.